Well, hello and welcome to the Informed Traveler Podcast, a weekly travel podcast where our goal is to help you become a more informed traveler. And I'm your host, Randy Sharman. According to a recent survey from Skyscanner, Canadian travel behavior in 2026 shows a growing appetite for destinations that balance cultural discovery, coastal charm, and vibrant city life. It also highlights everything from emerging travel behaviors to the top 10 trending and best value destinations. So in a few seconds, travel expert Onanta Forbes will join me to share what those behaviors and destinations are for 2026. And then we'll head to Dublin, Ireland and chat with Garvin Rush. He's the founder of Dublin Tour Guide, a private story-led walking tours company. So we'll learn all about discovering Dublin through a walking tour. But first, let's kick things off chatting with travel expert Onanta Forbes, who joins us each week to discuss some of the travel news and travel trends. You can follow her adventures on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Onanta Forbes. OnantaForbes.com is her website. Hello, Onanta.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. 'Tis the season for travel trends. It seems that everybody's coming out with their travel trends and predictions for 2026. This one is from the folks at Skyscanner, surveyed more than 20,000 travelers. So a large group input of travelers and travel industry people. So let's start with the destinations, because I think maybe the destinations might explain some of the trends that they're talking about.
Right. So the hotspots for 2026, Canadians are eyeing warm, authentic destinations. The Azores, St. Kitts, St. Lucia, Guadalajara, and even closer to home gems like Comox and Victoria. And I was lucky enough to visit Comox for the first time in early spring this year, and I agree. It's a beautiful destination, and if you could go. For best value destinations, they include Lyon, Dublin, and Seoul. And what it's showing is that that their travelers are kind of balancing their wanderlust with their wallet. And they've also shown huge interest in places that mix culture, coastlines, and city life. And so some of the top rising spots include what we've just discussed, and as well as Portugal. Portugal, for me as a travel advisor, that's one of the top destinations for 2025 that people are going to, and experiencing it myself. It's a beautiful destination, good walking places to go to, great jump off to go on a river cruise to explore the Douro as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, going back to your top 10 list, St. Kitts, I agree. That's my favorite Caribbean island. St. Lucia, I love as well. And you're right about Comox and even Victoria. One oddity that stood out was Gander. Like, I've never been, so I don't want to say anything, but it kind of, when you look at places like Victoria and Lyon, France, and Portugal and Caribbean and those places, like Gander?
Well, it's interesting because, I had the wonderful opportunity to explore Newfoundland this year.
Mm-hmm.
And Gander is on everybody's, I guess, tip of the tongue when you're there, because that's where that show is, or the play is, for come away, or come something.
Come from away.
Right, yes. And that's when, at 9/11, they welcome, for such a small community, so many planes and people who were displaced because of the unfortunate events of that day. So I think it portrays a very warm place for people, because it's a safe place and it's a welcoming place. And just Newfoundland in itself is a beautiful destination, with people that are beautiful in itself. Very, very amazing. And I would encourage people to go there.
Yes, I wasn't making fun of Gander. It just kind of
No.
the oddity
Absolutely.
with those places.
Well, you know what? Before that situation happened and the play came out, I can't say that I could recommend Gander with, oh yeah, let's go to Gander.
And that kind of does a little bit go hand in hand with some of the trends. And, the list they have 7 trends. One is bookbound, and I'm just going to add that film as well, movies and plays like Come From Away or people, they read about destinations, they see about destinations on television shows, movies, and and it makes them want to go there.
Right. And I definitely can attest to this. I have clients that are huge Harry Potter fans, or they have watched the Outlander series and are, wanting to go to Scotland. So, yes. And other travel trends include glow mat, seek skincare and self care experiences abroad. And I can agree with this because I loved going to a spa, and why not enjoy your holiday being pampered? Another one is called altitude shift. It's
Hmm.
where mountains are the new beaches, and this is where travelers want peace and nature and serenity year round. And we're so lucky, living in Calgary because we have Banff right, not that far from us, so we can
Hmm.
attest to that.
Hmm.
And then family miles, so that's multi-generational trips,
Hmm.
and where families are going together to seek togetherness, yes, as
Hmm.
well as savings. And it's all these terms are so interesting to me. Catching flights and feelings, and it says here 50% travel to meet new people and make meaningful connections. And I'm surprised it's only 50%.
Yes.
Um, really at the end of the day, it's all about connections. And then destination check-in, hotels are the new destinations, and people choose places because of unique stays. And you can really find that, like, where when you see a term or a accommodation that says boutique,
Hmm.
that's where I find that it could be small and, have lots of history, and there's some relevance to it in the place that you're going to.
Hmm.
And the other one is shelf discovery. So, culinary curiosity. 58% of travelers explore supermarkets abroad to discover local flavors. And again, I find myself that I kind of like to roam in different places. We're in grocery stores
Hmm.
just to see what they offer, maybe a little spice package to bring home. It's quite amazing. These new terms, but they are relevant with regards to what people are seeking. And it's interesting because it also tells us in this survey that 62% of Canadians say flight costs determines where they go,
Hmm.
and 70% are budgeting the same or more for travel next year. So, Canadians in 2026 aren't just booking trips. You hear this word a lot. They're curating experiences to express who they are. So it's not just about ticking off countries, it's about storytelling, self expression, and connection.
Hmm.
Um, and what's interesting, they're saying, it's not about passport stamps, it's about personal stories. Well, with this new EES system in Europe, where it's all biometrics now,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's
There
not,
are no
you don't
more
get it.
passport stamps.
I know. And I think, am I sad about that? Yes. I go through my passports. Those are my biggest souvenirs. And I love seeing where I went.
Well, you're right. There are a lot of interesting trends that they're talking about. The one is the destination check-in, talking about where the hotel is more of the destination, and I like hotels with a lot of history behind them, and there's stories behind them, and they become part of the destination themselves. And the family miles, we've talked about that with generational travel. uh, and I do like going to the markets too, like the not
Mhm.
necessarily the supermarket chains, but just to like the local markets, just to see what their foods are and what they eat. And well, we all have to eat anyways, right? So
Yeah.
that's part of the travel experience as well.
Right. And I think you make a really good point because, like, even at home, farmers markets are kind of a destination, on our weekends and so on. But when you go to the farmers markets or the local markets, when you're visiting a certain place, it's kind of fun. And if you have an accommodation where you can, self cater, it's kind of fun to pick up local produce and
Hmm.
different kinds of foods to cook up on your own. Again, you can save some money that way as well.
Very true. I never thought of it that way as well. But yes, there are more accommodations that have, mini kitchens and that type of thing where you can sort of serve up your own food. And even if you don't have to cook it, like things like cheeses and those things that you can just store in a mini fridge and have them for a snack to get the local flair.
And it's fun too. I know when, a lot of people snowbird in Mexico and they go to different markets and yeah, and it's nice to just pick up sometimes ready-made meals so you could just enjoy it as well.
And also interesting too, the cost of the flights. Yeah, I would agree with that. Like if I'm thinking of a destination, the first thing I look for is how much does it cost to get there?
Right. Yes.
And that's why it's sometimes good to sign up for, there's some websites where you can sign up to watch your flight kind of thing, right? I'm thinking of
Hmm.
Hopper, where they'll watch the flight for you, send you a notice and say that, hey, there's a good price on this flight right now. You might want to book it now instead of, a couple months from now.
Yeah, lots of different, and we talked about this in the past. For research, AI always pops up different ideas or Chat GBT. But at the end of the day, always make sure you talk to your travel professional because they can really give you real time inventory and
Hmm.
prices, and even suggest maybe go on a different date or a different day
Hmm.
to or a different time of day to reflect some savings as well. There's so much information out there. Sometimes it's confusing. So always good to have your travel advisor handy.
Very good advice. Onanta Forbes is a travel expert. You can follow her on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Onanta Forbes. You can check out her website, onantaforbes.com. Always great to chat, Onanta. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the Informed Traveler Podcast. I'm Randy Sharman. Just want to remind you of our website, theinformedtraveler.org. That's where you can find our contact page if you have any questions or comments about the podcast. You can also email me too with any questions you might have. My email address is randy at theinformedtraveler.org. And you can check out our social media pages at facebook.com/informedtraveler, Instagram at informedtraveler, or on X at Informed Traveler. Plus, you can now sign up for our monthly newsletter. It's released at the beginning of every month. Our October issue is now available. Just go to our website, theinformedtraveler.org, click on the newsletter button. It'll take you right there. Or better yet, subscribe to it and have it arrive in your inbox each month. Well, I've always said exploring a city through a guided walking tour is the best way to learn about the history and culture of the area. And if you love walking tours like I do, you'll enjoy our next conversation with Garvin Rush. He is the founder of Dublin Tour Guide, a private story-led walking tours company based in Dublin, Ireland. And Garvin joins us now all the way from Dublin, Ireland. His website is dublintourguide.ie. Hi, Garvin.
Hello, Randy. Thanks very much. Yeah, happy to be here.
I'll have to say I've never been to Dublin. I haven't been to Ireland, put it that way. So you can talk to me like a 5-year-old when it comes to talking about tour guides in Dublin. Let's back it up a bit and just tell me how this all came about and how it all got started.
Oh, well, okay. I'll give you the quick version of it. So, I started tour guiding in 2009, August 2009. It's September 2025, so that is 16 years ago. And I pretty much started it even before I graduated in university, let's say a month before. And I was working for a few different companies, and I think tour guides and travelers, after you do a few tours, you kind of realize what sort of dynamic you prefer, right? Whether
Mm-hmm.
you're happy enough with a big bus tour package, don't have to worry about what you want to do, or you like to plan it, or you like your private guide so that you can tweak it and you can ask the questions and it's just your group. So I feel like the more people travel, the more they find the value in having a private guide.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of benefits. For one thing, you don't have to be worried about asking stupid questions because it's just you and your friends there or your family, and you've said far more embarrassing things in front of them. So that's kind of where I tweaked, and I realized I just want to do the private tours because I want to connect with people. And
Hmm.
when I started with a degree in medieval history, for me at the time, accuracy, being specific, knowing what is objectively and historically true and what is opinion, that's the type of thing that you learn from a history degree.
Mm.
And for me, being accurate and all of that, that was kind of paramount. But after I did that for a few years, I realized, what is important with tour guiding is connecting with people. So it's less about the kind of cold hard facts and more about the warm, soft, fuzzy human aspect of it.
Hmm.
Um, and I can get that fulfillment not just for me, but for the people that are on the tour. You can get it when there's 2 to 4 to 6 people, right? A small group. But you can't get it if there's 30 people or even 20 people, right? Or even 15 people, because it's made up of those direct conversations, personal conversations, right? So, a 3 hour tour of Dublin is a bit of a whirlwind tour, right? 3 hours, we'll take a break halfway through, and the guide is kind of rushing to see all the sites.
Hmm.
And for me personally, at this stage, that's too short of a tour. I only do that kind of personally as a backup, if there's nobody else available. But I need 4 hours, 5 hours with people because I want to connect with them. I'm not here just to tell you information. I'm here to change your feeling about Ireland. I'm here to inspire, an admiration, love, a fascination in Ireland, in Dublin, of Irish history, of Irish culture, um, as well as, talk to the people. It's not just, hey, tour guide, question about Trinity College. It's, hey, Garvin, do you have any kids? Do you
Yeah.
live in Dublin? And I'm asking those same questions
Hmm.
back. And what I get, what one of the interesting things is, I'll spend, let's say, 5 hours with people, and I'm like, these people are very cool people. I wish that they lived in Dublin so we could hang out a little bit more, if we could have dinners and hang out together. But then they go back to North America, and I have to make a note of where they live. And then if it works out, if I happen to be across the water, which there's a lot of water there, so you don't accidentally get over to North
Hmm.
America, then I'll hopefully be able to link up with them, and that has happened a few times, thankfully.
Nice.
But I need to do it a bit more. I need to be, I need to do it a bit more. There's people to visit here, there, and everywhere all over North America.
Well, I have to say, I love walking tours, and I think you're absolutely right. It is the connection that you make, and it's the tour guide that makes the tour.
Mm.
And like you said, it's not all about just facts and numbers. It's the stories that they tell and the personal insights that they tell, along with the facts and numbers. And you're right. The smaller the group, the better it is, I think, as well, because it seems to me sometimes if you get, like you say, 15, 20 people, there's always a couple of people that like to wander off, and it slows the whole crowd down, and it just, I don't know, it just disrupts the whole tour.
Yes, yeah, and the tour I had today, for example, one of the participants, he had a cane, so we needed to make sure that there was several opportunities for him to sit down. So we're taking like more frequent breaks than normal,
Hmm.
cutting down on the amount of uh, the distance that we travel as well. So because it's not so much important that we see these 30 things listed that an
Hmm.
article online told me that I have to go and see. Because a lot of that stuff, as we all know, is heavily skewed by the advertisers that own those attractions, right?
Hmm.
Good example is the GPO, the General Post Office in Dublin. It is one of the most important buildings historically in Dublin because that's where a big rebellion started in 1916, and that's a big deal for Irish people. But we go in there, and there's only locals in there going to the post office, right? There's very few tourists in there that are going, oh, this is where it all started. Whoa. No, they're all going to Trinity College, walking around, see a beautiful campus and everything, but the reason they're there is because Trinity College, they have the Book of Kells that's paid in. And a lot of the other attractions are paid in. So unfortunately, the free attractions, they're not charging you to go into the post office. It's still a working post office, and it's probably the prettiest post office you've ever seen because a lot of the interior dates from the 1920s, which is very cool. But places like the post office, the National Museum, the National Gallery, the National Library, these are free institutions that obviously don't have the same advertising budget as the other attractions in Dublin. So people need to know about this, and there's things that only the tour guide knows, right? Like that, like what should we see in Dublin?
Yeah.
And there's people have they don't know what Dublin is like. For example, they might look, oh, we were in London last year, we're in Dublin this year, and they're like, okay, well, where is the city centre? And how much of the city centre is that? So is it spread out? Is it compact? They presume it's spread out like London, right? London, kind of to see the whole city properly, you need to use the underground. You need to use the tube. You need to use public transport to get around from this neighborhood to that neighborhood. But for Dublin, the city centre is very compact. Pretty much everything is nearby. The Guinness Storehouse, Jameson, those two big attractions, they're slightly outside the city centre, but everything else is walkable. And by that I mean from one end of the city centre to the other would take you less than 20 minutes to walk.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that because I had one of my questions I was going to ask: is Dublin easy to walk? And so you're obviously answering that before
I felt it was coming. So it's flat, right? There's a little incline at Dublin Castle, and I do mean little. You wouldn't notice it unless you're pushing something up, right? So it's flat. The streets are not crazy busy, right? I mean, I was just in Palermo, Sicily at the weekend having a trip with a few old friends, and I thought we booked accommodation, pretty central, but it was a 20-minute walk to the city center proper. So the city center was far more spread out, and it was crowded. It was very, very busy. So if you had something like a stroller or a wheelchair, or you just wanted to walk in a straight line, tricky there, very easy in Dublin. Dublin doesn't get the crazy crowds that, London and Paris and Rome and a lot of these, quote unquote, more important places get. Dublin is, I'm pretty, let's say, assured in my belief that it's not a primary location. If you're going to Europe from another continent, you're going to do those aforementioned cities, and Dublin might be your kind of second or third time in Europe. But when you come to Ireland, like we get the people that have done most of the traveling, and they're ready for Ireland, and it's safe for them. So we don't get a lot of the mass tourism and the problems that you have with mass tourism that well, let's say a lot of those aforementioned cities would get. So we're in a good space, and it's still good to be a tourist in Ireland. You can actually go somewhere in Ireland where there's locals, right? We're just surrounded by locals rather than just surrounded by tourists,
Yeah.
right? Like Venice, sort of has that vibe. Barcelona
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of has that vibe.
And that's what you want, I think. You want to be surrounded by locals so you can get the feel of the customs and the culture and the food and all the other things that people do in their daily lives.
Yes, you want to get outside your tourism bubble, and for the most part, the internet and those articles won't help you. If you happen upon a podcast like this, it can be quite insightful, and that's the great thing about podcasts, right?
Hmm.
Podcasts like this where you're talking to people who have been there, people who
Yeah.
know it,
Well, thank you.
and they can give you testimonies. So I feel that for me personally, it's the best way I learn about something. You want to learn from an expert,
Nice. Well,
ideally.
another way to learn is to go on your website, dublintourguide.ie. I'm looking at it right now. Different types of tours. You have your nearly all of Dublin guided tour, which I think would be, it's 5 hours. And like you mentioned, 3 hours doesn't quite cut it, but you do have the 3 hour fantastic walking tour of Dublin. And then you have the ultimate Dublin 1 day tour. And you have theme tours and all this other stuff. But I think I'll say this personally. I think sitting in a pub would be absolutely fantastic, and I'm not sure I'd ever want to leave.
Well, all these tours, they're very customizable. The 5 hour one is our most popular one. I said it to my father. I said, "Yeah, we have a 5 hour tour." And my father said, "Oh, 5 hours, 5 hours of walking, Garvin." I was like, "That it's not 5 hours of nonstop walking.
Yeah, it's not like you're going
Um,
on a hike
there's a
or
lot of
something.
standing as well. No, there's breaks, right? It would take 5 hour tour would take two breaks. You know, um, I believe that if you're doing any tour anywhere, there should be a break every 90 minutes. And that could just involve sitting down, or it could be a cafe or a pub or wherever, but there has to be that sort of punctuation in the tour for everybody to have a little break, to sort of rest and digest what you've heard, and to enable you to be refreshed thereafter, you know. Um, and in terms of our tours, yeah, we mainly focus in Dublin, right? I mean, I suppose we cemented ourselves into a corner there when I named it Dublin Tour Guide. But I also wanted to be quite explicit. What does DublinTourGuide.ie do? Do we do tours to Belfast? No, because we're in Dublin. So we're specialists in Dublin. And for sure, we have plenty of colleagues and peers around Ireland that we connect people to if they want to do a tour of Belfast or wherever. Um, we do have that, and we do have some tours that, to be honest, do leave from Dublin, but our
Mhm.
principal focus is on Dublin. We have a pub tour, right? So we go to four pubs, and they tend to be different pubs to give people a good vibe. Non-touristy pubs. It is difficult to go to Dublin and not go to a touristy pub. In general, if you want to see locals, stay out of the Temple Bar area. That's a quarter that's presented and pushed as the cultural quarter of Dublin, and it is to some extent, but not so much in terms of the pubs. Though I will say something that is a bit fairer and nicer to them. It's a good place to go for Irish music, for traditional Irish music.
Oh,
That
cool.
will be playing there pretty much all day. So from, let's
Nice.
say noon or 2 p.m. on a Wednesday,
Yeah.
whereas your local pub will not have traditional Irish music until 9:30. And then if it's out in the countryside, it'll probably only be 1 day a week,
Hmm.
right? It'll be a Tuesday or a
Yeah.
Monday.
Curious to know
And
though, when you do walk into a pub and people obviously know you and know your guides, are your guests, especially if it's a small group, maybe 4 or 6 people, treated almost like celebrities? Oh, here's the people from Canada, here's the people from the U.S., and you're with the locals. Do you get a sort of a celebrity status?
me or the
No,
visitors?
the visitors.
The visitors. Well, that's the oligarch special. You can ask for that particular package. VIP, VIP, the VVVIPPB.
But you know what I mean? Like
And you
when
get the
people they're at their local pub, they're locals just sitting there after work, and somebody walks in from Canada or the United States or from wherever, and it's like, oh wow, like, and when they see you or your tour guides, it's like, oh, here we got another group coming in, and it seems to me that's what makes it kind of special.
yes, and you'll get that for sure in the very local places. So, going to somewhere, quite far away from the city center. There are some areas that are a little walk from the city center, and then you're in a big local area. And the thing about Irish people is we're quite extroverted. We like to talk to people, and so anybody in the pub is quite a novelty, right? So we'd like talking to Americans because there's this Donald Trump fellow who seems to be in the news a lot, and then we love talking to Canadians because they're not Americans, right? So.
Well, you're not supposed to talk politics, so that's one of the rules, isn't it?
Well, this is what I have with myself as a guide and our guides, right? We just say like none of that.
Yeah.
But the locals who they don't have to talk to North Americans every day. They will skip right to it, right?
So, is there a tour that you have that's kind of doesn't really get recognized enough, or specific places that you would go? And I know these are all private tours, so I'm assuming that you kind of just tailor it to whatever people want to see. Is that how it goes?
Yes. Yeah. Thanks for asking about that, actually. So there, I mentioned this already. The National Gallery, the National Library, and the National Museum, right? I feel they're under-visited by visitors coming to Dublin. They're all free. And one reason why it's difficult to visit them is because they're quite big. The gallery and the museum especially. So if you go there, you're like, right, I guess I'll start looking at everything in here and reading every plaque. And then after about 30 minutes, you're like, I wonder how much longer I can keep this up. And I also don't know what's important here. Is this important piece for Irish people? I don't know. There's no big sticker on it that says this is important things. Here's the top 10. At least our museums don't do that. It would be quite useful if they did. So what we do is, that we have this museums tour, 3-hour tour. We take a coffee break halfway through, and I use it as a way to introduce these 3 institutions, but also to focus on what is important. So in the National Museum, it has many exhibition spaces. We only go to 2. We really try to keep it succinct, mainly for the guide, because then the guide I can't stop talking about all these different things. Getting a guide that can shut up is difficult. Guides are trained to talk, and they need to be trained again to know how to shut up. So that's difficult. With the museum, there are 2 very recognizable and important objects in there for Irish people. And they're the Ardagh chalice, so that's Ardagh, and the Tara brooch. These are recognizable to pretty much every 12-year-old in Ireland will know these. And so, I'll bring them, and they're not pointed out. So people go into the museum, and I'm sure probably more than 70% of people miss them, don't see them, right? Especially the Tara brooch, because it is quite small, but it is breathtaking. And I highlight them. I tell them why they're important and the history of them. So it's important to keep it to maybe a dozen objects or so, because if I show you 30 things, you might remember 10 of them. Whereas if I show you 10 things, you might remember 8 of them. You're going to remember more of them, right? You're going to remember that they're important. So we like to say we do quality over quantity. So rather than rushing around trying to see all of Dublin, we try to do few things and do them well. Um, and
Well,
it's
and people
a
can
similar
always
thing in the gallery.
people can always go back too, right? That's the other thing about walking tours. If you do it,
Yes.
like if you're staying for a week, I guess in Dublin, and you do a walking tour or one of your first days you're there, and you get a taste of some place, you can say, well, let's go back there and see more of it.
And the great thing about getting a guide on your first day is you have a local expert. Why don't you just ask them loads of questions? All the
Yeah,
work that maybe you wish you had done before you did the trip, do it there when you meet the guide. Say, hey, this is kind of what we have planned for the next couple of days.
yeah,
What should we do?
yeah.
How should we plan? So, for example, some people are like, oh, we have to go to the Guinness Storehouse. And I'm like, okay, fine, but do that in the afternoon. Don't do that in the morning because you won't be able to do much useful things after that. After you've had the alcohol, things will be good for an hour, a bit more than that, and then you get a bit sleepy.
Yeah, then
So
you want to nap.
then you want to sit down. So the only way to kind of is go and have another beer, go to Jameson Distillery. So it's stuff like that. And,
Yeah.
for example, if you're going to Guinness later in the day and you're doing something in the city, like the Epic Museum or the Book of Kells, don't walk to Guinness because it's roughly a 20-minute plus walk to Guinness. And you're like, oh, 20 minutes, I can do that. Yeah, but can you do 20 minutes plus another 40 minutes of standing and reading stuff?
Yeah.
Because I want you to be attentive and awake and not tired for that. So that's what I say. Take a taxi
Yeah.
to Guinness and do that. So it's things like that. You can, well, at least this is what we do. We like to give people a lot of free advice
Yeah.
on how to best plan their time in Dublin and Ireland.
Anything I missed you might want to add?
Well, obviously, I'm going to say great things about Dublin, but I think a lot should be said about getting out of Dublin, going to the west. So let's say you're in Ireland for 5 days. Don't spend 5 nights in Dublin and do day trips hither and thither. Instead, spend, let's say, 2 nights in Dublin and then go to Galway, right? People want to go to Galway and see the cliffs of Moher. Spend a night over there, right? Have some time to soak it up so that you're not spending unnecessary time traveling back and forth between Dublin and Galway. Likewise for the southwest, Killarney, Kerry, right? The Ring of Kerry is a famous scenic route, and Cork and County Cork and Cork City, all down in the southwest, and kind of the other places, Belfast up in the northeast in Northern Ireland. You got the Giant's Causeway, obviously some castles, the Titanic Museum in Belfast, and the great history there, the troubled history, the history about the Troubles in the neighborhoods in Belfast. So that's what I would say. Go and stay in those places. You're not only saving time, you're saving some money because those hotels are typically going to be cheaper than in Dublin, and you're allowing yourself time to soak up the vibe of that area.
Nice. Garvin Rush, he's the founder of Dublin Tour Guide. You can check out his website, dublintourguide.ie. All things Dublin, all things Ireland. It was a real pleasure chatting with you, Garvin. I can tell that you're passionate about what you do.
Thanks very much, Randy. It's my pleasure, and that's why I keep doing it. I love it. I have my dream job, and I can't work any other job because this job is just too good.